retired New York City firefighter and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
My brother Frankie, how you doing, pal?
Good, how are you?
And he better gotta be jealous of me. Life is good. I'm as healthy as a trout.
What?
As healthy as a trout.
A trout.
A trout. You know, the things that swim in the water.
I hope you have a bigger life expectancy than a trout.
Do they die young?
Well, they don't live 80 years.
You know what? Think about that. They always tell you that exercise is good for you, right?
Yeah.
Rabbits are bouncing and running around all the time. I think they only live about a week. Turtles live for 200 years. They don't move at all. I ain't exercising no more. Fuck Derek. I don't give a shit what Derek says. I ain't buying it.
Yeah.
When I get the inclination to exercise, I'm just going to lie down until it goes away.
Yeah.
Hey, but how about telling the audience who our guests are today, Frank?
Our guest.
I speak in plurals. We are not amused. We are not happy, like the Queen, you know?
Our guest today is Mitchell Haddad, renowned photographer of sports, of entertainment, politics. He'll be a very interesting guest.
What a gig that's got to be. I got to ask him. I got to talk to him. Doing something you love and getting gigs like that.
And getting paid for it and getting to go to places for free.
Well, did you love what you did?
Oh, absolutely. I got paid. I would have done it for free. I didn't tell anybody. I would do a job I'm doing now for free. I won't tell anybody that either, although maybe I just did.
Don't worry, Frank. Nobody's watching. Nobody heard you.
But yeah, I would. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the same way. You know what? Of course, being in the bar business and being Irish, I mean, that was an Irishman's dream.
Yeah,
you know?
But you don't really consider that your primary occupation.
Being a firefighter too is.
Yeah, but that was your primary occupation,
without
I believe.
A doubt. And fun. I mean, because it was.
Fun.
Day.
Running into burning buildings. I can't imagine any way to have more fun.
You know, man. There was guys on my job. I swear to God, when you could see it blowing out 6 or 7 windows, they lit up. I mean, they just lit up. They ate it. You know, they were like. I mean, I wasn't a fanatic. I liked it. I had fun. But some of the guys, I mean, you know, you always read these stories about firemen being arsonists.
Yeah.
You know, every time Hollywood does a story about a fireman, they make him an arsonist, right? It's like, right at the end of the story, wow, what a surprise. It was the fireman that was the arsonist. Shocking. But you could see guys actually get high. I mean, they just light up, you know, the bigger the job coming in. I mean, I liked it. I liked the action.
You never ran away from a fire, though.
No, because you're sitting down with these guys eating dinner.
I know.
You gotta, you know, you can't.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would imagine.
But that's the deal. It's peer pressure. You know, when you're a kid, and you know what? And this is probably super politically incorrect, but I always had a thing about women in the military and women in the fire department. I mean, I get it. There's plenty of firemen.
Look at Derek shaking his head.
There we go.
Derek shaking his head. He's going down that road. He's going down that 50s racial road for sure.
By the way, say hello to our third man in the booth, Derek Harris.
Hello, everybody.
Okay.
Let's see how
getting the censoring button ready.
By the way, our media consultant Gil Vieira is telling us we should get liability insurance. I got a feeling I'm going to find out why right now.
We have a media consultant?
Yeah, sure.
Jesus Christ, we get huge. I'm telling you, we're huge.
We are getting huge.
Media consultant. Anyway, and again, this is politically incorrect, but I always, when you were a kid, when you were a little boy,
when you were a little boy.
When I was a little boy, yeah, Christ was a corporal. When I was a little boy, you know, you're a little kid, you're 5 years old. I could jump off that cliff into the water. Well, I could jump higher. Well, if you could jump higher, I could jump higher. It's always this thing, you know, if you could do it, I could do it. And that's pretty much what being in battle or being in the fire department is. Mm-hmm. You got a buddy who's going down a hallway. I can make it down that hallway. There's no way you're not going down that hallway with them.
Right.
I don't know if women have that same competitive nature of.
That means you're ignorant.
You're insane.
That means you're ignorant.
I'm ignorant and insane. The two eyes, ignorant and insane. That's what, you know what? In Vietnam, they always had this thing called R&R, which is called rest and recreation, right? R&R. You're going on R&R. I always thought it should be I&I. intercourse and intoxication. Because that's pretty much what it was. But
Wow.
anyway, so I'm insane and
You're insane.
and
But let me tell you.
and ignorant.
Let me tell you who's also insane. I'm going to read this to make sure I get it right. Congress reauthorized the C.W. Young cell transplant program and a national cord inventory, which facilitates bone marrow and the umbilical cord blood donation and transplants of adult stem cells for leukemia and other blood disorders. They voted almost unanimously. There's never anything unanimous anymore. They voted 415 to 2. Guess who the 2 were? Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
The gun nuts, the two balloons. I mean, how do you vote against cancer?
Well, this is a very sensitive subject to me because Michelle Carew had died of leukemia, and she had stem cell transplant after she couldn't get a normal transplant, and it killed her just before the stem cells took hold.
Oh.
So if she had this
Earlier,
she'd be alive today.
you know, my friend the Tinker. I always talk
Yeah.
about Mike. You know, Mike was 81 about a week ago, and he had bone cancer. He was diagnosed with bone cancer about 3 years ago. And of course, I'd always call him up, Mikey, how you doing? Mikey, how you doing? How's everything? He says, Billy, now, he said, let me tell you, if I had a gun next to my bed, I'd blow my freaking brains out because the pain from bone cancer was so intense. And the problem is you can't sleep, so you never get relief from it. You know, if I stick a needle in your arm or in your eye, it's terrible. But imagine 24/7 and never getting relief from it. The pills he takes, he told me they cost $500 a piece.
In America.
Yeah, there's no way a pill costs $500.
They cost $5.50 in Canada.
Yeah, I bet.
Like your blue pills. Like you and Medical Cullen's blue pills.
My blue pills. Hey, Frank. I ate enough of those pills to get everybody in this room a stiff neck. Those blue pills. How the mighty have fallen, Frankie.
Yeah.
How the mighty have fallen. I used to be able to do party tricks with it. You know, hang a coat on it in the winter and stuff.
Before we get too far off the subject, what do you think about the Democrats now trying to stack the Supreme Court?
Well, you know, Roosevelt tried that. FDR tried it. He was going to add 5 to the Supreme Court, and the Senate shot it down.
Pelosi shot it down already. Pelosi said it won't pass the Senate, but the Democrats are still going to try to jump the number from 9 to 13.
Well, the Republicans sort of stacked it, but they did it not by circumventing the amount of people on it. You know, my problem with the court is I don't think they should be appointed for life.
I don't either.
I think that's the problem. You got guys that are 84 years old. I mean, we talked about this before.
Hey, I'm not that far away.
Yeah, exactly.
You're even closer.
But you wouldn't put me on the Supreme Court. You wouldn't.
No.
But and there's another thing. You know the Supreme Court and the Constitution, you know what qualifications you have to be on the Supreme Court?
No.
None. Absolutely none. You don't even have to be a high school graduate.
Then I knew it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's amazing. It was an afterthought. It was Article 3 of the Constitution, and you don't even have to be a high school graduate.
But you know what? You know who I blame partly for Trump stacking the Supreme Court, and I adore her, and I give her all the homage in the world. Oh, it's Mitch Haddad. Mitch Haddad's calling us. He said, "Where are you?"
Well, that's good. He's punctual anyway. If you're a photographer, you got to be. So who do you blame and you adore who?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
What, for not retiring?
For not retiring.
Yeah. Well, they're talking that now about, you know, getting the left wing. But you know what? It shouldn't be a political appointment.
But that's the way they should stack it. If they know they're going to retire, if the
get
president,
a young guy in there.
They should get a young person in and not try to be 91 years old and hanging on for basically dear life.
Yeah.
As Justice Ginsburg was.
Yeah, I just think that there should be an age limit on all of them. There's no way.
Well, there's never going to be a late age limit
because they won't pass it.
Well, because it's prejudicial.
Yeah, of course. But is Congress going to make a limit on how old they can be to serve? Like, take a guy like Strom Thurmond. 103.
Yeah, no,
It ain't going to happen.
no. But I'm
because-
talking about the Supreme Court either.
And they ain't going to do it either.
Yeah, what they should do, or what they could do, is if you say you could be on the Supreme Court for, let's say, 25 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then it would be just an arbitrary number. So if you're 40, you get off when you're 65. If you're 60, you get off when you're 85, if you live that long.
Yeah, I can live with that. But this idea of permanency, because let's face it, like Derek said when I was about to tell that story, he's, I'm getting the censor button ready. Because obviously at 73 next month, I'll be 73 next month, my upbringing and my views on things are a lot different than his, which is only 20 years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But how does a guy 87 be making laws for people that are 22?
Well, if he's competent, he can make laws.
But they have different, it's a different.
I don't care. If he's competent, he can make laws.
Well,
If it's within his 25 years, he can make laws.
Do you remember Earl Warren?
Sure.
The Earl Warren court? He really, when Eisenhower picked Earl Warren, he was the governor of California, right? Earl Warren supposedly was going to be a real right-wing Supreme Court head, and he made him head of the Supreme Court. Within 2 years, everybody on the right was screaming, impeach Earl Warren, impeach Earl Warren, get him out of there, because he turned out he realized the gravity of his position,
Right.
and he switched, and he became a very liberal
Right.
Supreme Court head of the Supreme Court. You
Right.
know?
Well, since Mitch is chomping at the bit, obviously, since he's calling, can we get him on, please, Derek?
Will do.
Let's have our media consultant first check this out before we bring him on. Let's utilize him, Frank.
All right, guys. Guess what, guys? We have Mitch on.
Hey, Mitchie.
All right.
Hey,
Hey,
Mitchie.
good
How are
morning.
you?
Good morning. Good morning.
That's my friend Billy O'Connor and my other friend Derek Harris.
Hey,
right?
Mitch. How you doing?
Eric. Okay. I know. I'm not used to this. Am I? This doesn't happen often.
You should be wearing a photographer badge around your neck.
Let me run and grab a few.
Oh, you're gonna be terrific. Don't worry about it, Mitch. By the way, how you
Hi,
doing?
Billy. You're awesome. God
Derek.
bless you. How's my hair?
You looking sexy.
Oh yeah, I just hope we don't get the weather you're expecting. It's a nice full hat. What are you expecting?
No,
10 inches of snow?
I don't
No.
think I've ever seen your head.
Here it is.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. Put the hat back on.
The glory of the dome.
Put the hat back on.
That's,
I'm follically challenged. What can I say?
Wow.
Since I
So
was early challenged.
so Mitch,
Yes, sir.
Billy and I are wondering, how the hell did you get that job you have? You have
Which one?
you're a photographer to the stars.
Oh, wow. Well, it didn't start out with the stars. I was an art major through high school and into college, wanting to be an artist. I've always loved to draw and paint since I was 6 years old.
where was
And,
college, Mitch? Sorry, where was college?
College was at a Valley Junior College here locally, and it was just a community college that I got some training. I didn't have enough to go to a university, and I didn't think I had the skills to go further, but I just wanted to try to learn as much as I could about art, and I ended up playing more softball than I did art classes, intramural softball. So a buddy of mine that I grew up with, my dearest friend, Jerry Dufay, said, let's join the Navy. And I thought, why not? I was 19 years old, not a great future ahead of me.
Billy knows all about that, by the way. He joined the Army at 18 just so he didn't have to.
You went to the Navy during the Vietnam era we're talking to. This is the Vietnam era,
I
right?
think he's a.
Me, I went in 76, and there was
Oh, okay.
nothing really going on, thank God. And I really didn't know what I was getting into. I just wanted to get out of the situation I was in, like kind of going nowhere, and thought I might have a future in possibly drafting or architecture, being an art field. So that's what was my goal in the Navy.
Let me ask you, Mitch. Mitch and I met through Rod Carew. How did you meet Rod Carew?
I met Rod Carew, probably not. Well, I'm a huge baseball fan as well as a huge Beatles fan. And when I I met Rod when I was shooting for a trading card company, Donruss Trading Cards, and I used to go down to Palm Springs in the early '80s for spring training, and I was a big collector of baseball memorabilia and all, and bats were my thing. So I asked Lester. I don't know if you remember Lester, Frank. Lester was a bat boy for the Angels, and I asked him if he can get me a Rod Carew bat, and innocently, and he went and told Rod, and Rod came after me like pissed off. He said, what are you doing having him steal my bat for you? I go, no, I didn't tell him to steal it. I just was hoping I'd get a bat. I mean, I didn't, but that's how I first met Rod, and it wasn't pretty. And
so he was serious. He was serious. He wasn't busting your chops.
I believe he was very serious because we didn't know each other, and I'm just a collector and like trying to get somebody else in trouble for stealing a bat, which wasn't my intention. But that's how we first met. And the fact that he, as a photography enthusiast, and knowing our dearest friend VJ Lavero, God rest his soul, who was the Angels team photographer, that's how I kind of got to know Rod closer, knowing VJ, having that relationship with VJ. So
you mellowed, obviously the relationship with Rod mellowed out after that initial
well,
foray.
you know, everybody that meets Rod has the same first impression of him. Stay away. Stay away. And it's really until you get to know Rod or he gets to know you that the experience takes off from there.
And he's very intimidating. It's like you don't mess with Rodney when he's pissed off. But we thank God we became real close. A player knocked my 500 millimeter lens off the steps, and it broke. And Rodney let me use his telephoto lens.
Was that during the game?
I think it was during spring training. Yeah, it was down in spring training in Palm Springs that it happened. But that's kind of where we kind of gelled, and he ended up taking us all fishing on his three fishers.
Now, Mitch, I think Frank told me that Rod is an amateur photographer. Is that right? Is that what the interest developed?
Yeah, I think he's just, like I said, he's always been an enthusiast about photography. I don't know how serious he got, but he's always been fascinated with it, and that was really our connection. Let me
ask you, when did you know? Like when you were in the Navy, you didn't know you were going to be a photographer. Did you do photography in the Navy? Is that when you decided this is the career path I want to be on? Is that when you knew?
I was stationed on a destroyer tender in Norfolk, Virginia, and on the ship tour, we went around to the different departments, and when we got to the photo department, it was just air-conditioned, clean, photos of Europe on the walls, 16 millimeters of Laurel and Hardy, great stereo system. This is 1976, so it was like, wow, this is cool here. And it was like there was a fellow leaving the Navy and leaving a vacancy in that department, so it was just a good opportunity for me to, like, man, we're going to Europe, and next year we went on a 6-month med cruise, and
wow,
I was a photographer at that point. I took the course out and became a third PH. What was it? I was a photographer's mate, but the lowest rate. And then we went to Europe, and I traveled all over Europe taking photos, and I was really totally into it.
So it was air conditioning, air conditioning again.
Yeah, blessed.
Played a part in your career, and it played a part in saving Billy's life in Vietnam. Air conditioning.
No kidding.
Yeah. Wow, you really were blessed, though. That's some tour, man. Going around the Med at that age.
Yeah, I went to Germany and all throughout Italy and France and Spain, and just loved taking street photography and just was so into it. When I got out of the service, my dear friend, who's no longer with us, Joe Kohut, was the production manager at Los Angeles Magazine, and she offered me a job doing paste up during deadline. It was like 10 days a month, and I did that, and I got to know the art director. I borrowed his press pass, and I had it copied with my name in it, and that's kind of how I rolled my whole life, just kind of maneuvering my way into things. But I used to sneak down on the field at Dodger Stadium, and by the ushers who didn't know any better and just took pictures and being like, oh my God, I'm on the field. And it's like, oh, there's Ernie Banks and there's like, oh my God, everybody was just I was in heaven.
So instead of talking about your photography, why don't we show the people at home some of your photos and you just comment on them?
Okay, cool.
You know, how it happened. And also, I'm going to ask you, if I can, Mitch, can you keep your fingers away from your head, because you're a photographer, and we want to see Mitch Haddad and not your fingers.
I'm going to probe you about the Beatles too, pal. I'm
please,
psyched. I'm psyched.
I'm the biggest Beatle groupie I know.
Yeah, well, you might have met
I would
number
love
2.
to talk to you. Right on. I love it. Cool. Let's do it.
So it may take a second or so.
Yeah, every time I hear a Beatles song, I don't know what it is, I just smile. I've never heard a Beatles song that doesn't make me smile. I can't understand how people don't think, you know.
Yeah, it's puzzling, but people, go figure. I have headphones in my head all throughout the day, even at work on set, because I don't have to really be too involved until I have to shoot. But I'm listening to music all day, and the Beatles just drive me. They're just John Lennon.
I remember vividly, Frank and Mitch, when I was in Nam, we used to go to the nightclubs in Bangkok, and it was always Thai kids singing American songs. Mm-hmm. And the most vivid thing, and I'm going to get nailed by Derek here again, the most vivid thing was this: all you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you really need. It's like Elmer Fudd sings the Beatles.
With that, Derek, why don't you put up a shot? So the first one is going to be, we'll see as they come up.
Cool.
Derek let me get away with that one.
Yeah.
Hold on there. Sorry.
He went the wrong way. We'll pull this up in post.
But yeah, man, that's fantastic job. What a gig you had.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Billy, I've met 3 of the Beatles through my photography opportunities, and God, she's the biggest highlight of my life, of course.
Okay.
Oh, there's Prince. Take 2.
You caught Prince in a nasty shot there with the fingers up in front of his mouth. We all know what that means.
Yeah. Well, that's Prince, though. That's the cool thing about that shot. It's that I don't know how I captured that, but should I go into it now?
Yeah,
Frank?
please. Yeah.
All right, cool. So anyway, when I was working at Los Angeles Magazine, a buddy of mine was a huge Prince fan, and I was aware of Prince, but not nearly like he was. And he had Prince was going to be in town. This was 1982 during Purple Rain. And we went to the show, and I took my camera with me, sneaking it in with taking the lens off the body, putting it under my arm and behind my pants, and putting a jacket on. So I snuck my camera in, and we kind of worked our way to our seats, and we had really cool seats like where this vantage is of Prince, and I was just shooting away. This is manual focus with film, and how I got that image, that timing was, I nailed it, and it's sharp.
Yeah, you nailed it, and it is sharp. But a couple of questions. Number one, so you weren't getting paid for this shot. You did this on your own. And you had to sneak the camera in? Is this in L.A.?
Oh, yeah. It was in Long Beach Arena. Uh-huh. And I always was, all the concerts I shot from 1977 on, up until the early 90s, I was always sneaking my camera in because I didn't have no way of getting a credential other than making a fake credential, which I did at times. But back then they didn't have security like they have now, and you could sneak anything into a concert practically. So I just was an enthusiast. I didn't know what I was going to do with them, but I loved to take photographs, and I loved photographing music. It's like probably my favorite thing to do, really.
Hey, Mitch, let me ask you a question. There was a story I recall about, you were talking about lenses. There was a story I recall you bought a lens once from Rodney. Why don't you tell that story?
You mean a VCR?
A VCR? Okay, yeah, a VCR.
I knew you were going there, Frank.
Why don't you tell a VCR story? Billy relate to this. He probably sold it to you.
Yeah. Somehow he's connected. I was in Inglewood shooting something at the Forum, and on my way home, I stopped to get gas, and I had a Carmen Ghia back then, and a fellow comes up to me and says, "Hey man, you want to buy a VCR?" This is like early 80s it was.
That's happened
Early
to me many
80s.
times.
Yeah. You want to buy a VCR? Hey, I got one in
It's
the
hot, it's
trunk.
hot. Fell off the truck.
So he shows me a box that had shrink wrap around it with really nice photos of a VCR, a Panasonic. And it was like the newest thing in technology. And I really wanted one. It's like, yeah, sure. What do you got? And he says, well, I got these for $150. And I said, well, all I have is $75 in cash. He says, I'll take it. So that was fine for him. So he physically put the VCR in the back of my Carmen Ghia in the back seat. And I was so excited. And he took off. And I couldn't wait to turn around and open it up and look into it. And as soon as I pulled it back and saw Budweiser, I knew I was screwed. And it was like it was a box of bricks. It was a box of concrete bricks.
You know, I really
Wow.
believe that you can sell anything. Frank
Yeah.
and Mitch, anything. If you say it's hot.
Didn't you sell
Yeah.
some? Didn't you tell a story once about a quart of Hennessy or something?
Yeah, the scotch, yeah, in the cup. But yeah, I sold it. But you can sell anything. If you can't sell something, all you got to do is say, hey, psst, psst, come here. It's hot. Fell off a truck. And you can say, we can
Wanna
sell
buy
our
some-
books. We can sell our books.
Yeah.
And say they're hot. They fell off the truck.
That's a
Half
good
price,
idea.
you're good.
All right. So our next photo is going to be of Joe. It'd be Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams.
Wow.
Where was this photo taken, Mitch?
That photo was taken at the 1991 Hall of Fame induction in Cooperstown. It was Rod Carew's induction, and we had connections to get credentials. Probably you, Frank, had something to do with it. But
And that's Ernie Banks. And behind
Ernie
them
Banks.
is Charlie Gurg. Bobby Dorr.
I think it's Bobby Dorr back there.
Bobby Dorr, Ernie Banks, Joe DiMaggio, and Ted Williams.
Wow.
Photo.
That forehead is Billy Williams, I think, back there. But anyway, I was shooting. I was obnoxious photographer and always constantly shooting. And they probably looked over at me and go, look at this guy. He won't stop. Like, give him a shot and let him get out of here. But it's just, to me, a beautiful shot because it's such an intimate, because Ted's got his hand on Joe's leg. And it just, you could see the bond that they had being peers of each other and in their era, the greatest.
Oh, without a doubt. Those are two of the greatest hitters that
Oh,
ever
greatest
lived.
of all
You know,
time,
I
man.
read something interesting that after the 56 games that DiMaggio hit safely
Right.
in, he missed the 57th game, of course. Then he hit in 26 more straight.
Yep.
That's
Another
unbelievable.
career.
That is unbelievable.
But so Mitch, so you were up there because of Frank with Rod Carew's induction. That's why you were up there at the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that was a great weekend too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a blast. Gosh, I had it in my hand. I had the program. Okay,
Oh,
I hope you have pants on.
oh
there's
yeah.
the program from that event.
Yep.
And we knew Rodney.
Adjust your camera now.
There you go. You're
Great.
back.
You're back.
We knew Rod pretty well. I went with Lou Sarich, who's a dear friend of mine, who shot for Fleer Trading Cards. I was shooting for Donruss at the time, and we just went to everything together and spent so many cool times together with being around these incredible, gifted icons. My God, I've seen so many icons in my life.
Yeah. Well, speaking of icons, we're going to show you another icon, Barack Obama.
Barack Obama, yeah, that was quite a thrill. I had heard about him and I'd seen maybe a speech or so of his, but not really aware of what he was all about. He was running for president. This is 2007 when he was still a senator. And he gave a rally at the Universal Amphitheater where I was a house photographer at the time. So I got to photograph so many amazing events there. The Dalai Lama and
Wow.
Eric Clapton and just so many amazing people. But Barack was hanging out backstage with them at the Universal Amphitheater, just kind of just chilling back there and talking with him and didn't really know much about him. But then I had to get photos of him and the House of Blues people. So we started chatting it up, and I got photos of him and James Whitmore, the great actor, the old brilliant actor James Whitmore. But seeing Barack's speech was just so uplifting, and I don't know, not everybody's going to agree with me, obviously, but it was a huge thrill for me.
Again, Billy.
Just to be in that presence, and what an amazing human being.
So you were the house photographer at Universal Amphitheater?
Correct.
Is that Universal Studios? Is that what we're talking about? And
yes, sir.
What does that hold, that amphitheater? What are we looking at?
Oh, gosh.
5,000, 10,000, 15, 2?
Probably under 10, I think, maybe.
Okay, so let me ask you why you were there. And I always ask this question, so I'm going to ask you, what's the best concert that you ever saw while you were? Well, what's the best concert you ever went to? That's part of your business, right?
Prince.
Well, I was Peter Gabriel, to me, gave the greatest performance. Oh, just amazing. So captivating. But seeing the Stones and Nirvana and Pearl Jam.
Can you say Prince for Derek too?
Prince?
Derek. Prince is
Peter Gabriel.
Prince is Derek's favorite artist, so please say Prince. So even if you don't mean it.
Yeah.
Prince was amazing. I photographed Prince twice, and he's probably one of the most amazing artists, musicians, genius performers ever. I mean, he was so gifted, and God, he could do it all.
You mentioned Prince, and we can get back to your question in a second. But Prince was grew up in Minnesota, and he lived in Minnesota, and he grew up idolizing Rod Carew. He was a big Rod Carew fan, and Rod got to meet him many times at Twin Stadium. Yeah.
He looked like he was about 120 pounds, right? He was a little guy, wasn't he, Prince?
He was a little fella, yeah.
How much exactly did he weigh, Derek?
Oh, I have no idea how much.
Oh, you liar.
Yeah, he was a little guy, right?
5'3".
5'3", huh?
It's like Madonna's height.
And he was a pretty good shooting guard, too. He was a pretty good point guard in high school.
Oh, really?
Yep. He was indeed.
Yeah, what a loss. What a loss.
But I'm going to get back to Peter Gabriel. I would never dream that you would say that. Out of all the concerts you've seen, Peter Gabriel, huh?
Well, that tells you something about Mitch.
Well, yeah, it's interesting.
But you recall you're talking to a guy who bought a VCR from a guy at a gas station. So
that could happen to the Pope. I mean, I'm conned myself.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you.
Without a doubt. That could happen to the
never
Pope.
Bought anything off of anybody.
What was it? W.C. Field? You can't cheat an honest man. Yeah. So Peter Gabriel. Listen, forget about it. Let's get right to the Beatles. Blow me away. How did you meet the Beatles? How does that happen?
Okay, well, I didn't meet them all at once. My first Beatle I met was George Harrison. He was one of my all-time favorites. I love George. I met him at a Monty Python show, and I made a fake press pass to shoot Monty Python at the Hollywood Bowl. And I lived in Los Angeles.
Mitchie, you're a gonoff. A thief. A thief. A gonoff.
God bless you.
A thief.
I'm not a thief. It was all...
You made a fake press pass?
Yeah, who got hurt?
That's my man. I like his style, Frank. I like his style. Nobody died.
Nobody died.
So you met Harrison because he was one of the guys, the benefactors of Monty Python, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He financed their first movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Time Bandits, and they did a five-night stint at the Hollywood Bowl in 1981, and I knew George was going to be there eventually. He had to be, because he's connected to Eric Idle and all those guys. So I would back then you could just drive up to the back of the Hollywood Bowl and hang out. So I did that, like, I think every night. I think on the fourth or fifth night, George showed up, and I got into the venue. I grabbed a few shots of him coming out, and I used to oil paint. Like I said, I was an artist to a degree, and I did maybe 5 paintings of Beatles, and I had one that I was really fond of that was from Magical Mystery Tour, an image, and I took it out and showed it to George and asked us if he would sign it. He asked me if I did it. I said, yes, I did. It's very good. Very good. Thank you very much. Now, where do you want me to sign it? And he signed it, and I was like, oh my God, I'm George Harrison. This is the coolest thing ever. So, so that painting also got signed by Ringo Starr when I was working at the amphitheater. Ringo performed with his all-star band, and I took the painting and took it backstage and got it signed by Ringo. And then Paul McCartney, I met a couple times. Was a bad. Paul McCartney, I met at a press junket, and in 1976, I did a painting of Paul and Linda that I took to Wings Over America at the Forum for the 3-day stint. I took it there, got there 5 hours early, hoped to meet Paul, never did it straight on, but I somehow got my painting back there and asked if they could sign it. Somebody came, the wardrobe person came out, holding the painting up over her head, signed by Paul on the forehead, and Linda McCartney signed, really great, love Linda McCartney. Paul wrote, Paul McCartney was here on his forehead. And then I met Paul at a press junket down in Tucson, Arizona. So
you didn't ask him if he remembered the oil painting, did you?
No, we didn't get that into it.
That's pretty remarkable, though, when you show up at a concert, not with a photograph, but you're showing up with an oil painting. I mean, that's commitment.
There are a lot of people that have oil paintings. I can't tell you how many people, over the years with Rod Carew, would show up at card shows and give him oil paintings and pictures that they drew of him. It was incredible. I think maybe 100 people over the years.
That's incredible.
They took pictures of his daughter and everything. Hey, Mitch, you mentioned Eric Idle and Monty Python. Did you shoot Suddenly Susan the last year of Suddenly Susan? Because I know you shot George Lopez, but you didn't shoot the season that Eric Idle was on.
No, I did not.
Okay.
No.
Okay, but you shot George Lopez.
George Lopez, what an opportunity! I think you had something to do with that because Rod, Joe Morgan, Steve Garvey, and maybe one other player were guest stars on George Lopez. And I wasn't working. I was working for Warner Brothers doing publicity stills for them, but no connection to George. And I think you probably made that happen because of Rod being there, and maybe it was
Rod, Joe Morgan, Jim Palmer,
Steve Garvey.
And Steve Garvey. There was the four of them.
The bobbleheads.
Yeah, bobbleheads.
And that's how I got started working on George, because
George liked you. George liked you.
Yeah, that's cool. George, God bless him. He was so good to me, and he eventually wanted me to come to his Christmas parties and photograph his Christmas parties for him at his home, he and Ann's home, and I met so many amazing people there.
Mitchell Haddad.
Mitchell Haddad.
That's what George would say. Whenever he said, Mitchell Haddad.
No, when he said he went to George's home, is that the house that you're living in now?
No, that's the Pebble Beach house.
At Pebble Beach, yeah.
Toluca Lake. In Toluca Lake.
Toluca Lake, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mitchell Haddad.
Yeah.
Mitchell Haddad.
Became the rallying cry for Mitch when he was on the set.
It was the coolest. I worked on almost every episode the last 4 years of the show. But again, just feeling like so grateful to be welcome into their home to photograph their parties and trusting me with that. And through them, I met Fred Willard and Mary Willard, God bless them and rest their soul, who I did all of their events, St. Patrick's Party, Christmas, 4th of July, I've been so blessed and grateful to meet so many wonderful people that have benefited my life. Like, honestly, I'm going to start crying.
That's great.
Why don't we show you with the cast?
I'm truly blessed and grateful for all of the wonderful people that have made my career what it is.
Why don't we show you with the cast of Scandal? This is a photo. Did you take this photo, or did somebody take this photo of you, or did you put it on the time lapse?
No, there was a fella there taking pictures of all of the crew with the cast. So each department Yeah, scandal.
Boy, Mitch, they wouldn't have any trouble picking you out of a lineup there. I tell you that. You do stand out a bit.
And that's my good friend Tony Goldwyn.
Oh, Tony Goldwyn, God bless him.
Which one is that, Frank? For Tony Goldwyn.
Tony Goldwyn.
To the left of me.
To the left of you?
Yeah,
okay.
Right here.
Yeah, that's him. That's Tony right there. Tony.
He's from a somewhat famous family, I think.
Yeah, he's from a Goldwyn.
Samuel Goldwyn family?
Yes, he's from the Samuel Goldwyn family. And he's also married to a production designer, a very famous production designer named Jane Muskie, who Jane Muskie was the production designer on Murphy Brown. And speaking of Murphy Brown, small world, but not only that, in 1988, in the pilot of Murphy Brown, the guest senator who was having an affair that Murphy was busting was Tony Goldwyn. So we renewed acquaintances 30 years after the fact from Murphy Brown.
Wow.
But
Scandal was probably just the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me. I worked on every episode, doing so much photography, and I did all the photo bursts, all that rapid fire that was in a lot of the scenes. And just with the most wonderful cast and crew, God bless them all. Kerry Washington is a saint. She's remarkable.
So now I'll show you probably a pretty famous photo that you took with the cast and crew of 2.5 Men.
Oh yeah, that went everywhere. That was a cool thing. 2.5 Men I was working for Warner Brothers at the time, and they were doing their promo piece, which is the men, that whole thing. And I just went. I didn't really know what I was getting into. It was like a last minute call. They realized they didn't have anybody photographing it. They called me. I ran down there straight to the set and just got so many great pictures of that initial moment with them. And what a great run. What a fun show that was. And just to be, I just have had so many amazing opportunities.
Rise. That's probably not only a novelty, that could be worth something.
Say that again, Billy.
I said you got a picture of Charlie Sheen with clear eyes. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. That's a hell of a shot.
Please.
And Mitchie didn't photoshoot it.
Charlie Sheen was always so wonderful to me. He was always so cordial, always asked about my family. I worked on The West Wing, too, with his father, who is a saint as well. I love Martin, and always made me feel so welcome and comfortable on set. And just
the amount of celebrities that you have photographed and met because of your profession, who do you think was the easiest to work with, most affable? You're an affable guy yourself. I mean, I only met you, but I could see myself sharing beers with you into the night. I mean, because you're interesting.
Let's do it. Not everybody has been cool to me. I'll tell you. I've had my run-ins.
Who's the biggest prick there, Mitch? And who's the nicest guy? That's what I want to know.
You really want to know who the biggest prick is?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
You want a list?
Yeah.
Well, let's start off with.
Yeah.
Can we do this? We're not going to get right.
Yeah, come on. Lay it on us.
So Jim Belushi, what a tool. I got to say. Yeah, you're John Belushi's brother. Live with it. Deal with it. And he was just such an idiot for a guy who's like, really, or who? But, he was brutal. Lauren Graham, Gilmore Girls, Sally Field,
Really?
Sally Field. I'm shooting on brothers and sisters, and it's an intimate scene, and I didn't want to be during the take, so I'd be on the other side at the door, and between takes, I went in and got some pictures, shooting the pictures like it was the scene, just to have something, because she wouldn't let me shoot while we were rolling.
You like me. You really like me.
She said, get the fuck off. No, she said, you have enough pictures. Will you just please leave? Like, what? I just started. So anyway, Sally Field wasn't very cool. And she threw me off a set another time I shot on that show. So she evidently didn't care for me. Poppy Montgomery on Without a Trace. What an evil person. Geez.
The Express.
This is better. This is better than getting Who's the Best people. Listen, I like this. Keep giving us the dirt.
There's too many wonderful people. to name. I mean, I'm blessed. People like
Mitchie, keep
geez.
giving us the fucking hubs. We want to hear about the hubs. Who's the pricks? Mitchie, come on, brother.
Who else we got? I don't know. I let's see.
Well, let's. So Mitch is a very nice guy, but he can, probably rub some people the wrong ways. So Derek's got a bunch of flips. Derek's got a bunch of flips. Why don't we talk you through this?
Okay.
Well, first one up will be Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson.
Well, I'll tell you, I must have 70 people flipping me off. between mostly baseball, because I was, in their face in baseball. I had to get up close to get shots, and I just have a lucky face, I think. Jason Lee from My Name is Earl. I think I've got maybe 3 television people. Jason Lee, Rose Montgomery from Charmed. She gave me the finger.
We got one
black fella on Criminal Minds, Shamar, I think.
Yeah, we got him. We got his picture here. Let's put him up.
You do?
Yeah, you got it on your website. By the way, what's your
on the website?
What's the title of your website? What's the website address?
It's mitchellhaddadphoto.com.
That's Jason Lee, but we'll find
there you go.
There you go.
Shamar Moore, I think was his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why. I didn't think I was disturbing him, but he just decided he thought he'd give me the finger. But I guess that's what you do when somebody's in your face all the time.
Mitchell Haddad photo.com. Is that right for our viewers? Mitchell Haddad photo.com.
Yes.
That's
Mitchell Haddad.
And let me ask you about these guys flipping you off. It wasn't when you went up there for your first picture. Was this after a series of photos? They just got fed up, or was some guys who just laid the bird on you right away?
Right away. I mean, get out of here. Take this.
But some were doing it with love also.
I never felt it was anything but love, honestly. And it's just everybody who gave me the finger, with the exception maybe of Eddie Murray, because he was kind of.
You know difficult. What? I always bust Rod's balls about this, Rod Cruz balls. But I must have met Eddie Murray 25 times with Rod. And Eddie Murray always says, "So nice to meet you." So it's gotten to a point now that whenever I'm with Rod and Eddie Murray, Rod knows what I'm going to say. And he says, "You know Frank, don't you?" He says, "Nice to meet you, Frank." So
it ain't sinking in.
I haven't had good experiences with Eddie Murray either.
I'm sure he could be a real nice guy, and he's nice to people that I know. And that's what blows me away. It's like, if I'm with somebody that you're cool with, wouldn't that kind of make it be like, I'm not going to be a jerk. I mean, I'm totally respectful to everyone I photograph. I truly admire their ability, their profession, and I'm never going to go in being a jerk. I mean, I'm always very cordial and respectful and polite, and I want to get to know the person a little bit to make the connection, because I think that's what makes a great image, when you can bring a personality out of somebody who is not always smiling or cheery or whatever. But I think that's the beauty of being a photographer in my world, is to connect with the artist you're photographing or the subject you're photographing, just to get something genuine out of them.
Well,
as opposed to a fake smile or whatever.
Speaking of personality, you took a photo of Dolly Parton, which is just terrific. I mean, the composition is great. I don't know what she's doing there.
She's got a bow for a violin, a fiddle. She was fiddling, fiddle, and that's the bow.
Was that at the Universal concerts, or was that Universal?
Yes, that was at Universal Amphitheater. Yes, and I met her backstage. Reese Witherspoon was there, because Reese was doing Walk the Line, and I think that was the connection to country music with her, unless she was just a huge Dolly Parton fan, which I'm sure she is. But that was another awesome opportunity.
I think everybody is, maybe even Derek is.
Now,
fan of Dolly Parton?
That picture, Mitch, of Dolly Parton was at Universal, and you were getting paid to take that picture. So that comes along with premier seats. I mean, you're right underneath the stage taking that, or is that a telephonic lens, or what are you doing?
Probably in the photo.
I think I'm at the soundboard on that one with like a 400 millimeter, so it's pretty deep. Usually you get in front of the stage in the photo pit, and you're looking up at them. But if you can go deeper, which I was for Barack as well, shooting with a 400 millimeter, you get a different vantage point instead of that up look.
Hey, Mitch, can you quickly tell me what's the difference in lens sizes? What's the difference between a 400 millimeter and a 15 millimeter and a 500 millimeter? Because you guys are always carrying all these cameras around and lenses around your shoulders. That becomes cumbersome, I would think.
Yeah, but the reason there's so many cameras is because you don't want to be changing your lenses all the time or carrying loose lenses, right? And banging them up in that. And granted, they get knocked around a bit, especially doing football or something like that where you're running with them. But you have different size lenses, like a 15 is like a fisheye, real wide angle. But that's the lower the number, the wider the lens is, as far as the focal length. So 24 millimeters, a good wide angle lens. 50 is a little tighter. 100 is like a portrait lens.
So you shoot a landscape with like a 15. The lower you go, the broader it is.
Yes, correct. And like I said, you don't want to be changing lenses while you're shooting on the fly. So if something's spontaneous, you just grab that camera with that lens and shoot from that. And the 400 millimeter is a telephoto lens. So you're pretty deep, or you want to get in really tight into the subject, depending on where you're positioned.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to be lucky.
Luck is everything in my world.
Yeah, I remember the photograph of Ali standing over Sonny Liston with his arm like he's just like this.
Oh,
and when I saw the clip, he was just celebrating the knockout. He was doing it in real time, and Neil Amador, whatever Neil Leifer, just happened to snap it at that very moment. And that became an iconic, maybe one of the most iconic boxing
standing
shots.
Over Liston, without a doubt.
Over Liston.
The whole story is amazing because he was a backup shooter, I think. And the crazy thing is, excuse me, if you look between Ali's lens, there's a man standing with glasses, a bald man standing with glasses, and that was the original. I think he was the key Sports Illustrated shooter who's going, "Oh my God, Leifer's getting the shot."
Oh, wow.
He has his back to the other photographer had his back, and Neil, I think, was just a backup guy who just happened to click on that.
He got the shot,
and he clicked.
Man,
he clicked in the exact 1/24th of a second. He caught the exact 1/24th of a second, because when you shoot film, you shoot 24 frames in a second. That frame was 1/24th of a second, but it was perfect timing.
The time it takes to recover from a sneeze, right there.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
It's remarkable with photography that's all it takes to capture a moment that will live forever.
Yep.
And that's what beauty of photography is, that split second moment that
it's luck. Like you said, Mitch, it's luck. And Frank makes a point. Frank makes a point in Lips. And he says everybody in this business, in the business of entertainment, luck has a lot to do with their success. Now, your career, what do you think was the lucky break from you that moved you from amateur to professional? Or what certain moment did it happen for you that you knew?
Well, like I said, when I would sneak down on the field with my fake Los Angeles Magazine press pass, I was shooting just for kicks. And a buddy of mine, Bill Livingston, was shooting for Fleer trading cards, and Fleer and Donruss had just gotten into the field of trading cards because of Topps contract running out for the exclusive. And he said, call Donruss up. They might need a West Coast guy. And that's what I did. And that's what got me my start into shooting professionally and legitimately.
So it was
Because
Topps
I had-
baseball cards? That was it?
Topps was the only one for a period of time, right, Frank? They
Yeah.
had the contract for baseball cards, I thought.
So that was it, though. Was you start shooting baseball cards? That's what you think would be
Yes.
was the spur that got you into professionalism photography?
That was it. That got me connected to so many people by being on the field and having access to players, and then opening it up to being able to sell to Sport Magazine, ESPN, and
Wow.
and those kind of things that just opened the door and gave you exposure for to the next gig or
Well,
whatever.
I get that. I mean, it's one thing to be a great photographer. It's another thing to let people know that you're a great photographer. It seems to me it's two different
I'm not.
talents.
But
Huh?
I'm not.
But you
I'm
are. But you
I'm
are.
No, I have never considered myself a great photographer because I never really learned how to take pictures. When I was in the Navy, I became a photographer, and they never sent me to photo school because I wanted to be a draftsman going in, and I wasn't rated, so I wasn't guaranteed school, and they wouldn't send me to the school in Pensacola. So I never learned how to shoot technically, professionally. I was on the fly.
Yeah, but it was on the job training, OJT.
Yeah.
I mean, look what you've accomplished. I mean, of course you're a great photographer. Look at the results of your.
But I want to say something in Mitch's behalf. Mitch takes good photography. There's no doubt about it. But there's a lot of guys that take good photos. Mitch is reliable. There's also maybe not as many guys that are reliable, but there's still some guys that are reliable. Mitch gets a lot of work because he's just a good guy.
He's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy. And, like George fell in love with him. Rod fell in love with him. As you meet and accumulate people, if you make friends, you'll call Mitch whenever you have a job to do. We called Mitch. Get on my single, Derek. When we shot the cover of the book, can you see that? Okay, the glare.
Yeah, looks great.
But we took a photo of Rod's book.
So Mitch did that shot.
Mitch did this shot,
and of course Rod was comfortable in front of Mitch.
Of course. Of course.
But that makes all the difference, I would imagine. I mean, if you're doing a series of shoots, I mean, if you're just grabbing a shot of somebody walking by, it really doesn't matter, I guess. But if you're connected personally with the person, it's going to show up on the photograph, you think?
Oh, it helps. Major. I mean, that's the thing, too, is like I said, all the photographers are going to shoot, but there's only going to be a handful that you connect with that to get something special out of it. And that's the beauty of photography, is to get something unique and special, capturing a person's personality, or not stealing their soul like everyone says, but
stealing their soul. I love that.
That's a big, I remember on George Lopez when Adam West.
Yeah,
Adam West.
Batman.
Yeah, and he would, and everybody wanted a photograph with Adam West. So he would put his arm around you and he'd say, "Don't look into the lens, it'll steal your soul." And he'd always be looking off camera when we took pictures of him with whatever.
Well, Lee Trevino always, with George and I, were friendly with Lee Trevino. George, of course, way more friendly than I was. But he would always, whenever he took a photo, he would raise the lid of his hat. I said, "Why are you doing that?" He says, "Because the person here will want to see my face. And I'm going to get the shadow of my face."
Yeah.
That's a good.
That's awesome.
The Merry Max, huh?
That's very conscious. That's beautiful. Well, because if you're not using a flash and their sun is over their head, it's going to create a shadow under their eyes that you may not see their eyes at all.
Now you could never use a flash, right? In the concerts?
Not in concerts, no, but I did on the field because of that. Because flash, again, I never really learned properly. In retrospect, I wish I would have taken Ozzie Smith or all the greats, in a studio and did some cool lighting like we did with Rodney and do some nice portraits. But I got some pretty cool images on the field with my flash, and the flash took the shadow out of available light. Is beautiful. It's the way to go if you know how to shoot an available light. And if you don't, you use a flash to open that shadow up and punch up the image.
Now, Mitch, when you paint, can you paint off of these photographs that you take? Can you do that? I mean, is that how a painter works? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm colorblind. I don't.
I have never done a painting of any of my work, and I probably hadn't done a painting since 1976. So I never did that. And I would always paint from photographs because I just don't have the imagination to conjure up and I've never done plein air, going out to the field and painting with an easel and paints and that.
Let me ask you, Mitch, who that you haven't shot would you like to shoot? What subjects?
What subjects?
Yeah.
What people? I would love to photograph Joe Biden to continue my president streak. I don't think I'll ever have an opportunity to shoot the previous president, which I wouldn't really care to. But I photographed 6 or 7 presidents, so that would be cool to have Biden. But I photographed the Rolling Stones. There's a very few list of bands that I wish that I could see and photograph. But I think I'm good. I'll tell you what. I really am. I photographed so many.
At this point in my career, I'm good. That's
well, you are. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, my man. I mean, definitely you're good.
It's amazing, huh? It's just a trip that, I mean, I've looked at the pictures that I've taken, and it's like, God, I've experienced so much in my life, and I've been so blessed through photography to have those opportunities to just be in the presence of those people. I would have never had the opportunity in any other field, I don't think.
No, without a doubt. When you did the Stones, do you do them backstage, or this was all on stage, or?
That was just performance, and that was down in San Diego in early '90s, the Voodoo Lounge tour, and just they bring you in, you do 3 songs, and then they get you out of there, so you can get I think a lot of performers are annoyed with photographers that distract, especially if it's in a quiet tune and they're hearing the click, 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 so they give you 3 songs and get out. But if
who's they, Mitch, when you say they give you, who's they?
It's pretty much the standard for most bands or venues that I believe, that it's a 3-song limit, and it's for the sake of the audience too. If you're standing in the front row in front of them, they paid a lot of money for those seats, and they don't want their view blocked by a photographer. So I think that's standard, that you shoot 3 songs and get out. And now it's just so controlled with whether the band owns the images and you don't get any money from it or whatever. It's just too.
Wow.
I don't know how anybody makes a living doing any of that stuff anymore, because it's either controlled by Getty Images, who owns everything, or the team, or the performer, or management company, or whatever. There's so many restrictions now that I could have never, ever, ever done what I've done now. They have the access that I did through the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. I stopped shooting sports in 2004. That was my last full year of shooting baseball and sports. But thank God television has been my livelihood for 20 plus years.
Hey, Mitch, let me ask you a question. How has the change over to digital affected you from film to digital?
Right. It's sure a lot more forgiving. With film, most of it was manual focus, so you just really don't know what you're getting. I mean, whether it's exposure or focus, and you're hoping you're composing it right through the lens, but it's just a hit and miss thing. And that's the great thing about film. What you really have to admire about film shooters, that they didn't have the ability to look at the back of the camera and see you need to open up a stop or, manipulate it in post when you get it back to brighten it up or fix the focus a little bit or whatever, take things out of the shot. Film was like you took maybe 5 rolls to a show, if that, and 36 images on a roll doesn't give you a lot of leeway as far as getting as much as you would get with digital shooting 4,000 pictures.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Well,
amazing.
36 shots on a roll is about a second and a half. So
Wow.
you can shoot a second and a half
with digital
in real time, right?
Yes.
And you could take a MOOC like me, with digital, and I could take a picture and doctor it to make it look like I know what I'm doing. Right?
Well, a MOOC like you.
With digital. Yeah.
With
Well,
a
Mama
MOOC
looks
like you.
A Mama Luke, not a MOOC, a Mama Luke.
I'm a Mama Luke.
I'm a Mama
I
Luke.
make the Luke a Mama Luke. And a Mama Luke.
So yeah, actually, like a guy like me could make it. So digital, basically, and what you said before about Getty owning everything, your recommendation to an aspiring photographer at the moment is don't do it. Don't go into this business.
No, do it if you have a passion for it. Gosh, I mean, what a blessing. I've been shooting for over 40 years. I don't think I've ever photographed anything that I've hated. I swear, I love.
Did you take any pictures of Sally Field?
Well, yeah. Those are exceptions. Those are bad. Those are just tough moments. But I love being on set and being in that world of.
Oh, it's a dream life. I envy you like beyond belief.
God.
What a dream life.
I envy me. Honest to God. I like I said, I just can't. It's hard to believe that I've done what I've done for a living and made a living out of it.
That's a great picture of Lennon, by the way, over your right ear. Over your right ear behind you. That's a great picture of Lennon. Just a great picture.
Oh, that's by Ethan Russell. And that was taken during the White Album sessions. And I feel he's listening to Julia. He's listening to a playback. And he loved his mother so much. And his song, Julia, is just so touching and beautiful. And I just feel that John's listening to Julia there. But he was I love John Lennon more than probably.
It's funny. I'm a big Beatle fan. Because if you grew up in that era, you have to be, you don't like humanity if you don't like the Beatles. You got to love the Beatles. And I always, Harrison. I loved Harrison, but it was Lennon, McCartney. But of the Beatles songs that stick with me the most, it's always Harrison's songs.
Yeah.
While My Guitar Gently Weeps and
Something.
Yeah, Something. Here Comes the Sun. Those songs really resonate with me today.
Yeah.
So brief with his Beatle catalog, but God, he's done so many amazing, beautiful tunes on his own. But yeah, he was kind of held back from John and Paul, but they kind of ran the show, didn't they?
Yep,
oh, without a doubt. I remember Leonard Bernstein, which I thought was when they did Something, because Something is just, it doesn't matter who's playing Something. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. And they asked Leonard Bernstein what he thought about the Beatles, and he said, there's 2 kinds of music, and only 2 kinds of music. There's good and there's bad. And the Beatles are good. Yeah. And that was it. Yeah. And that's Bernstein.
That's it. Yeah, coming from him, he knows his.
I think he knows a little bit about music. Yeah.
So let's wrap this up, Mitchie. Derek, do you have any other questions you want to add? Billy, any last thoughts?
No, but I'm just I can see why you got a lot of work. Because you are a real affable guy, man, and an easy guy to talk to, and the big smile on your face, and not only it's obvious that you love your profession, you love life. You're delighted to be here. You ain't going out anytime soon, Mitchie.
I'm so blessed. I can't, honest to God, I'm like.
Oh, you're going to start crying again.
I get really emotional.
Don't start crying, Mitchie.
Well, I am, again, thank God always for giving me what I've had. And I've got 2 amazingly beautiful children, 2 boys that grew up loving baseball because I used to bring them down on the field back in the day. And they're my life and my mother. And, those are the things that drive me, that made my life, and so many wonderful people that I've met through my career, Frank, and and that we've all been through, the Tony Gwynns and the Rodneys and the VJ Laveros and Don Baylors, and
Hey,
that are no longer with us.
Did you take that photo of Rodney and Tony Gwynn with their? Oh, okay. I thought you did.
I think Bill Livingston took that with the silver bats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me leave you with 2 words. Mitchell Haddad.
Mitchell Haddad.
Thanks, pal. Thanks, pal. Good to see you.
A real pleasure meeting you, brother. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you very much. It was a
wonderful thrill being on your podcast, and I'm grateful that you brought me in, and it just means so much to me.
Give us your website one more time so our listeners can check out your photography. Right, one more time.
MitchellHaddadPhoto.com.
All right, there you have it, folks.
Great.
Thank you all.
Thank you so
much.
much.
So much. You bet, bitch.
Love you guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
Great job. All. God bless. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, we done it again?
You're a fascinating guy, Frank. Another great catch on your part. I have to segue while I'm thinking about it, because he was talking about, hanging around waiting to see Paul McCartney and hopefully catch a couple of shots of Paul McCartney. I had a hook in Miami.
A hook or a hooker?
A hook. A hook, Frank, a hook. In Miami, the chief of police, John Timoney,
right,
was a good friend of mine from New York, and he was the chief of police of Miami. Now, Timoney was Dublin born, so I knew when U2 was coming to Miami that he was going to that show.
Right.
So naturally, I call up John, and I says, okay, I'm coming to the show. That's it. I mean, it's Bono, it's U2. If you go into a house in Ireland, there's 3 pictures in every house in Ireland. There's a picture of the Pope, there's a picture of John F. Kennedy, and there's a picture of Bono. I mean, that's it. I don't care whose house you go into, that's it. Bono's like the patron saint of Ireland. So I said, this is great. I mean, Timoney's hooked up in Miami. So I said to him, I know you're going to the show. He says, yeah. I said, so where do you want me to park my car? He says, just park right in front of the stadium, because I'll be standing in front of the stadium at 7 o'clock. You pull up. So I get out of my old Buick, and I says, John, I'm over here. He goes, yeah, Billy. I said, where should I park? He says, just leave it there. I'll surround it with cop cars. I said, all right. I said, this is great, right? So he says, come on, we'll go backstage. We're going to meet the group. I said, this is terrific. Shaq was there, and, all these celebrities. And so we go backstage, and they got a big buffet laid out for the U2. But unbeknownst to me, they don't show up backstage. U2's got it down to a science. They come in, they do their show, and then they blow out while the audience is still waiting for an encore. Like they beat the traffic.
Like Elvis.
Like Elvis. Yeah, they do
Elvis has left the building.
Exactly. That's exactly what they do. But I got to tell you this story because I thought it was hilarious. We're in Miami, and Bono, they have a ramp, of course, built out into the audience, the 15,000, whatever it held in the auditorium, in the stadium. And he's got this long ramp going out to the thing, and he goes walking out, and it's a moment, it's about halfway through the concert. He has all the lights in the place shut down. And there's a spotlight just on Bono. And you can hear a pin drop in the place. He's got everybody's attention. He just starts going. And after about 30 seconds of this clap, he turns around and he says, every time I clap, a child dies in Africa. And some Mick in the front yells out, well, stop clapping, you evil bastard.
That's funny. That's funny. So what else you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about the episode you talked about that Mitch was mentioning about the bobbleheads. Tell us, our audience, about that bobblehead episode. You had a lot to do with that. Didn't you write that episode?
It's the only show. It's the only episode of any. I did 700 shows. It's the only one that I got a story by credit on. Yeah.
Yeah. So you helped write that.
Yeah.
You're a bit of a writer. Tell me.
By the way, if you want to read more of my writing, it can be read if these lips could talk.
A shameless segue.
A shameless segue. No, we did a show on George Lopez where George was an abandoned child, and he was going to San Diego to see the 1978 All-Star Game. Well, Rod, of course, Rod got 2 triples in this All-Star Game and set a record. And as a matter of fact, we told a story last week, or several weeks ago, when Andy Strasburg was our guest, when Rod was sliding into third on the second triple. Pete Rose said, "You just set an All-Star Game record with 2 triples in the same game," because that's how involved Pete was in the statistics. But so I invited Rod, of course, to be on the show. Joe Morgan, who played in that All-Star Game, rest in peace. Jim Palmer and Steve Garvey, who was a good friend. And they came down, and in the episode, George's son, George, got the baseball from the 78 All-Star team, and he had all the guys autographed baseball, and he was proudly displayed it in he caught a foul ball, and he proudly displayed it. Well, his son was playing with the ball, and he dog ate it. And the kid tried to forge the signatures, but he didn't spell it right, and George got busted. So in his sleep, George was really pissed off about it. And in his sleep, and he had the 4 bobbleheads of the players right by the baseball.
Right.
So in his dreams, the 4 bobbleheads came to life, and they told him that, get over it. It's just a baseball. You have a lot of memories to establish, and have a lot of memories with your son still to go, and you don't want to spoil it by being a total prick, basically.
So it was a little bit of a tearjerker episode, too, in a way, and sentimental, which is good.
Yeah.
It's a Frank Capra type moment.
Yeah.
Huh?
Frank Capra.
You know, I told you my old man was who he was, but when he drank in Murray's, which became the Tinker later on, it was a very connected place. And he knew I was a huge Giant fan because growing up, I was a Willie Mays. He was my man. Willie was the guy, and so he got me 2 baseballs autographed by the whole 1954 Giant World Series team.
Mm-hmm.
And even DeRocha signed it, who was the manager, and his wife, Lorraine Day, even signed it. So I had 2 autographed balls, one for my brother, one for me. I had them for 3 days. I used them on the street, not even in the park. We needed a baseball. I said, I got baseball. I went upstairs and got both of them. We had the covers ripped off them within 30 minutes.
So you were even in Egypt then?
I was a complete Egypt. But I'm better now, Frank. I'm better. Remember how dumb I used to be? I'm much better now.
We were writing a book, and we spelled Egypt the way you spelled it. And our editor sent it back and said, Egypt is spelled incorrectly.
Yeah, isn't that remarkable? I never even knew that there was an American spelling for it. I mean, I just thought it was the Irish, of course, idiot. The Irish calling idiot. He's a proper Egypt, that fella. He's in Egypt. I didn't know there was a correct spelling for it. I couldn't believe it when she came back.
Joe West. Major League umpire Joe West was in the news recently.
He said he just won a lawsuit.
He won a lawsuit for $500,000 settlement from Paul LaDuca, who is a player for the Dodgers and the Mets. And they said Joe was trading balls and strikes calls in return for Billy Wagner's, who was a pitcher's, use of a 57 Chevy.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's absolutely slanderous. No wonder he won.
It was slanderous. The judge thought so too.
I wonder if I can sue you guys for $500,000 for calling me ignorant and insane.
Well, according to Gil, if we get liability insurance, we can settle with you.
Ignorant and insane. That should be worth a few bucks. A warm 6-pack. I'll take a warm 6-pack. Whatever you can hand out.
So I said to Joe's wife, Weeder. Joe's wife, Weeder.
That's not easy to say, Frank. I'm going to let you off the hook on that one. Joe's wife's
Rita.
All you need is one.
That's
a great callback. So I'm the agent. All you need is one. I sent her an email and I said, "You're buying the next dinner." She said, "Gladly."
All right, Frank. I think we should wrap it up. What do you think?
Uh,
You want to go on? Why you want to talk about what?
I would just want to give you one more one more trite information. This week in history.
Well, this week in history. Don't ask me what. I don't even know what date it is. So don't ask me what happened.
April 24th
Okay.
is the day this airs. What happened April 24th, 1980? There's your first
Wow.
clue.
April
1980.
Something Reagan did, probably.
Close, but not
So
quite.
is it a political?
It became a political thing.
Oh, come on, you got to feed me a bone here.
It was the beginning of Jimmy Carter's downfall.
Oh, this was the Iran hostage.
Started today.
Did it really?
Yep.
Yeah, the Iran hostage thing was, Carter, of course. Between the inflation, the Iran hostage thing, the gas situation. It was a
But I
disaster.
think the gas was more Ford.
Yeah, but you know what? In fairness, Carter took the rap for the Vietnam War. It had to be paid. The bill had to be paid, and it was paid under his 4 years. That's when inflation went through the roof, and because the amount of money they spent on that war and never paid for it. It was a war fought on a credit card.
Yep.
Which is what they're doing now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a war fought on a credit card. So, I'm not.
But I believe that the hostage crisis, Reagan used it
Without a doubt.
to his benefit, and the Iranians used it to get Carter out because as soon as Reagan was elected, then they released the hostages.
Yeah, and Reagan took a bow for it.
Reagan
and said
took a bow for
they did it because
Right.
they were afraid of me.
And I believe they worked in cahoots. Reagan's campaign worked in cahoots with the Iranians to defeat Carter.
Well, to this day, of course, the big issue is a nuclear Iran. Don't let Iran get a nuke. Don't let Iran. And you got to think. And again, I think it's a good idea that Iran doesn't get a nuke, but you got to ask yourself, why do they want a nuke? Do you think they want to take a nuke and drop it on Israel so they can get completely obliterated because the whole world would destroy them? Of course not. They want a nuke the same reason that North Korea has a nuke. They get a seat at the table, and we can't interfere with them politically. I mean, they still to this day, we all remember 1952 with Mohammed Mossadegh. I mean, when the CIA overthrew the illegal government of Iran.
Derek, do you remember
Mohammed Mossadegh.
Mohammed Mossadegh?
I don't remember it.
I don't remember it either, but we all.
I know it happened.
Yes,
And that's not the only time.
No. We were always interfering with other countries and the internal goings on of other countries. So they want a seat at the table. Just think about it. Iran is surrounded by nukes. Israel's had nukes. I don't know how many years, but it's actually against the law for them to be getting foreign aid from us because we're not supposed to, according to the Nuclear Disarmament Treaty, we're not supposed to be giving money to anybody who has nukes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Israel is they got a stronger lobby than the NRA.
Yeah, for sure. So ask me who our guest next week.
Frank? Who's our guest next week?
Our guest next week is Burton Bubba Gilliam.
Burton Bubba Gilliam. I think we got to put up a picture of him. Do we have it?
There he is.
Oh, you know what? I wouldn't know who Bubba Gilliam. I wouldn't know who Bubba Gilliam was except for that photo. Because the photo is iconic, I mean, now I know, and that's going to be fun, man. That is going to be fun.
He'll be our guest next week. Anyway, with that, say goodnight, Billy.
Good night, Billy. Good night, good night, Frank. Good night, Derek. And good night, everybody out there.
And don't forget.
And stop clapping, you evil bastard.
And don't forget, if these lips could talk.
And
a Mikamook and a mic.
A Mook and a mic right here and there. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.